Welcome to the Life in Red podcast. This is a way of life that emphasizes positive sexuality, self-love, and confidence. On this journey, red is now your new color. Be courageous. Be passionate. Be sexy. And never stop living your best red life. So now I have one question for you. Are you ready to live your life in red? To join us on this journey, like and subscribe below.
Sure.
Well, that's the thing. I've been interviewing a lot of couples, and talking to them, and about 80% there's two different stories. And then there is that rare, one is I'm doing this to please my partner, the open dynamic, however that looks. And then it's very rare that I find so far in my journey of discovery, because this is new for me. I live in Georgia, so we probably opened up a lot slower than maybe out west. So what I'm finding is there are couples I find that are on the same page. They have built trust. They have a good foundation. There's an understanding. It's not because one partner's bored or they're not communicating their sexual needs. And what's interesting, there's a show called something about thruples that was on Netflix. I don't know if you get on Netflix, but it was interesting. Only one out of the whole group of couples that were trying to find a throuple situation worked out. And you could tell it's because the foundation, the trust, the communication, just wasn't there.
I think it's rarely the solution to something that is not being communicated or not working well in a couple. I think it's better served as a desire. It's better served as a consensus, as an exploration, as a positive intention, rather than this is the fix.
Yeah, let's spice the relationship up. It's no, it's always it's never what we think it is. The problem's never the problem.
Yes.
And I agree. The grass it's I read this book, I forget which one it was. It always said I think it was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. I can't say it on YouTube. But he said every situation you go to is a new set of problems.
Yeah.
The grass is truly not greener. You may think this is expanding you in this way or this or that, but you have a new set of lessons, problems, growing.
Yeah, it's there's always an upside and there's always a downside. And you're doing well if you can maximize the upside, be aware of the downside.
Right.
Because sometimes there's a price to be paid and you want to know that the price is affordable. And I don't mean in dollars and cents. I mean emotionally and practically and in those ways, can it be managed?
Exactly. And that's why I keep coming back to in my mind is what do you want? It's what do you truly desire? Ask yourself that, because you're going to have problems with anything. So if you're trying to look for the best thing, that's maybe the wrong question. It's what do you want?
Yes. Yeah.
And
and how do I know?
How do I know?
Do I know what I want? Am I happy with what's happening? Okay. How do I assess that? I'll often, there's something I've developed that I call the 5 F's. All right. And it's when a person is going to be sexual, it's almost like pause a bit and take a little bit of time to take a personal inventory. All right. And I, came up with this little acronym. That's an easy way of thinking about some of the factors that are the most important things. So if I'm gonna head into a sexual experience, okay, well, the first F is, what am I feeling?
What am I feeling?
Let me assess my feelings. What are the positive go-to feelings? Am I feeling excited? Am I Am I feeling energetic? Am I feeling comfortable? Am I feeling horny? What am I feeling? Am I feeling shame? Am I feeling guilt? Am I feeling anxiety? Am I feeling negative feelings? What are they about? Let me pause a little bit and look into that and see, because I want to head into a sexual experience with largely positive feelings in that regard.
Right.
That's the first F. Okay. The next F would be what I call fantasy. All right. And fantasy goes beyond that. It's imagination. It's like
Right.
what in my mind's eye turns me on. What am I noticing? And on Tuesday it may be something, and Friday might be something else. Okay. But to be aware of not having to pursue a particular fantasy, but what occurs to me. What do I like? What do I enjoy? The third F being focus. Where is my focus? Is my focus on pleasing someone else? Is my focus on something I have to accomplish? I'm going for the gold medal of the sexual Olympics. Uh, is my focus on pleasure, or is my focus on performance? All right.
Oh, this
So,
how. Mm.
so I want to try to keep it toward pleasure if I can. All right, in that regard. So I want to be aware of my focus. The fourth F I call friction. All right, which it fits in with the F's. All right, but it basically represents the sensory experience. What am I seeing, hearing, feeling? Okay, pressure, stroke, method, etc. Maybe even smelling, tasting. Okay,
Right.
what's part of the sensory experience that allows me to feel turned on and sexual? And the fifth F finally is feedback. All right. So now, okay, I'm not alone in this, but if I'm involved with another person, what kind of feedback am I getting from that other person? And what am I paying attention to? And also, what's my body telling me? What kind of feedback, biofeedback, am I getting
Yes.
from my own body? That seems to be okay. Go towards that, and maybe away from this.
Yeah.
So those are the five Fs that I think are a good little personal inventory that can also be shared in a couple, can be discussed. And
F yeah.
yeah, yes.
F yeah.
Good.
And I'm gonna put a slide up for this because with the five Fs, because this is like candy. I'm eating all this up. I'm like, I'm gonna go write down all the notes from this because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do homework like with every person I date. This is gold, guys. And I know a lot of times we in our busy lives we don't want to take the time to dig into connecting to our bodies, connecting to smells, senses. Am I comfortable or not? Because we overthink things. Well, maybe that little nudge that's saying you is we need to get curious why. It's like let it just be what it is. Like the answer is no. Your body's telling you no. His breath smells like whatever. We're animals. We're humans, but we are animals. Maybe that person smells weird to us. Yes, maybe there's gastro issues, but someone else may not pick that up, but you are. It's like your animal's like,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. And even on that, Brittany, it's like, okay, you know what? I I may have certain smells or certain odors that maybe it's part of hygiene that I'm not even aware of, that I haven't really taken care of in a positive
Right.
way to make myself more appealing to my partner. It's another
Right.
way of looking at it.
That's so hard to talk about. Oh my gosh. I was on a date, this poor guy, and he was an INFJ on the personality, the Myers-Briggs. So I was like, and I love my INFJs. They're brilliant weirdos. And like me. And so but everything was great. But he opened his mouth. And I could tell he brushes his teeth. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
dang it.
Well,
Dang it.
sometimes that's even that good oral care. It could lead something that's coming from deeper within. That
Right.
it's like when do you bring that up? At what point do I just try to ignore it, or does it turn me off so much that I don't see the person anymore? It's like, all right, you find that imperfect moment where you express that. And now it's interesting too, because how does a person receive something that can be critical and hurtful feeling, or useful and instructive? Is it like I'm defensive and I'm annoyed and I'm going to push you away, or is it, man, I'm glad I heard that so I can make an adjustment and I can kind of
Yeah.
show up better the next time?
Yeah, it's all comes back to that vulnerable communication around intimacy, sensations, taste, smell, touch. Like that's part of sexual communication. Not only what do you like to receive, you live with someone and that you may be smelling something or whatever, and it's very scary to talk about those things. And I know I've had to, and I'm like, thank God, like you hope you have a joking relationship, like some kind of friendship that you could be,
Yes.
but
Yeah. Well, that's also, you want, sometimes you'll kind of hold off, again, timing, where we're a little bit on
Mhm.
solid ground. Hey, I need to talk to you about something personal, if you're okay with that, once things get a little established,
Bill, would you been taking a bath in the garbage? No, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm gonna be the stereotype for New York. With all due respect, would be like, "Would you taking the bath in the garbage? What you doing with yourself? Go get in the shower and then come here and bang me." God.
Well, you're talking to a native Brooklyn boy, so I hear you.
You're like, that's my love language. Talk to me dirty some more. Yeah, I hear you. Well, this is interesting. And I think the 5 Fs, that's on your website, correct? Do you have that on there?
Actually, I don't have it up there yet. I should put it up.
I thought I saw it. Sorry, not to. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of great information on there. We've done an interview with you in the past, Life in Red, the host previously to me. There's more good information on your website, just tons of good stuff. And again, what we're saying is you're not saying that it's all about communication and intentionality. So it's talk to each other, just recapping what you said as a couple. Okay, we're going to go look at live Jasmine together. We're going to go look at whatever. We're going to go, like tonight, I'm going to, my first time going to a kink dinner.
Oh.
I don't know what that is.
Right.
I'm going for journalistic purposes, but and curiosity.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, let's go to a kink dinner.
Yeah.
As a couple. If one person is scared to speak up because of their trauma,
Mhm.
or fear of rejection, then we have issues and resentments.
Yeah, it's exactly as you're alluding to. Those resources, online, it opens up wonderful possibilities for exploration, discovery, enjoyment, mutuality, or even individually. As long as it's not violating an agreement. But
Yeah.
in order to violate an agreement, the more explicit we make things that we can talk about that are clear, otherwise you wind up explicitly violating agreements that you may not even know you're violating it. So that's why
Exactly.
it comes back to the communication, and then it becomes perceived as this secretive betrayal or rejection, and then
Yeah.
we've got a lot of heavy lifting to do to be able to repair that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in that situation. I was lucky that he had Asperger's. And so that being said, it was a gifted moment to be with this man because he's so honest, very, very honest in that regard. And so I knew it was a slight addiction to the adult entertainment, but I didn't know to what degree. I
Yep.
didn't ask.
Yep.
So number one, I got to take some accountability. But the thing is like when I found out and we were having issues in our relationship to where my needs weren't getting met,
Yes.
that's where I sat down and said, let's have a talk. If you are doing that more than you're banging me,
Yes.
there's an issue for me. And he was like, it's convenient. I'm tired.
Yeah.
For me, there was more to it. And so it ended up, I felt the trauma in me of like, because my needs weren't getting met. So I ended up getting nasty.
Yes.
And instead of just going, I love him, but he is not meeting my needs.
Yes.
So before this won't work.
Yeah. Well, your experience is you should know in one way or another very common, because that's where it becomes a problem. Where you begin to see, like, a couple will come in and there's an issue of, what we refer to as discrepant desire, or it appears that one person is low in desire. And sometimes what happens is that they've broken down in their sexual relationship. So one of the partners takes it outside, to the internet, and does it in fashion where now, hey, you're not looking at me, and you're not looking for me. You're out there. Okay, what's going on? And that's where very often it surfaced where, well, gee, it's not about so much low desire as that there's been a diversion of the sexual interest and sexual response, because we're not talking about it, and we're not working it out in terms of what would be enjoyable for us together.
Right.
Very common. Very common. And then there's hurt feelings, and then there's feelings of betrayal, and
Hmm.
it's like it could go really bad fast.
Exactly. And we sat down as a couple and we got down to it because my sex drive, I'm high sex drive. And he does not and never has.
Yep.
But also there's trauma. There's sexual trauma. So that probably needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
That is inhibiting the human contact along with autism.
Yes.
All that. I'm sure it's a cocktail of I'm not
Yeah.
getting laid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was hard because I had to leave because it comes down to your needs.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be ugly. That's what we say in the South. I didn't want to
No.
be ugly about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Often in situations like that, I'm dealing with a couple, and when that's what you describe, when that's the case, I talk about it in terms of the iceberg. All right, it's like,
Mm.
think of a couple in a boat sailing along, hitting an iceberg, and the iceberg that they hit, they're aware of what's above the surface. Well, this is the iceberg below the surface, which is each person's sort of individual developmental history that may have traumatic experiences in it of one kind or another. For that person to understand, how is that influencing me? Is that
Right.
influencing, having an effect on my sexuality, why I've shut it down, or why I have a particular interest? And then once that person has sort of some understanding of that, I find it very helpful in couples work for the other party to be able to hear and understand that, and to realize that, hey, you know what, this person's reactions or lack of reactions to you is not because of you. It might be affecting
Right.
you,
It's not
but
personal.
it's not personal. Can you hear it and be supportive, and vice versa, of of,
See,
of the
I
iceberg below the surface?
I saw the iceberg. I'm Titanic and I'm coming towards the iceberg. I can see under the water and I'm like, hell no. And the reason why I had to turn the Titanic that way so Jack and Rose don't drown is because if you're willing to put in the work,
Yes.
and it's not just talk, you're willing to put in the work, you got me for life.
Yeah.
I am your partner. I do the work and I'm willing to be there. I know it could take a while. Right before my time of the month, I am a horn dog animal. I'll deal with it. It's going to suck. But as long as we're going up, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But if it's like, sorry, it could be a few years before I get to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Peace.
Right. Right.
No.
Right.
It's
And you've
hard.
got a choice. You've
You have
got
a
a choice.
choice.
But making that informed choice, and also when the iceberg gets hit, you could hit that iceberg on a first date. You could hit it in a marriage of 15 years.
It's true.
So it's like,
Yeah.
and it varies on how that gets played out and how you deal with it.
Yeah, that's what you hear about these men. Now, let me ask you this. I've had 2 guys on dates lately say this to me, and I want your opinion. is it impossible? These guys said, based on, I think it's Sex Before Dawn or something like that, the book.
Yeah.
Anyways, that we have not evolved enough to the point of making monogamy work to where people actually only desire to be with one person.
Right.
Like,
Right.
what
Yeah,
random, but that just popped in my head. I'm just curious what you think.
yeah, that's a long standing belief
Mm,
that, sort of with evolutionary basis on thinking that way.
right.
Okay, it can also be used as an excuse
Mm,
that, what,
avoidance.
it's, yeah, you know what, there's some heavy lifting here. This takes some effort. This takes hanging in. This takes dealing with emotions. It's a lot easier to just say, let me move on, or let me add on, or any of that. And ultimately it's relationships, and can you make them work? And can you bring that into a bedroom situation?
Yeah.
Can you bring it into sex? And whether you got two people, multiples, those are the challenges. Can we deal with consent? Can we deal with
Mhm.
discussing differences and what you like? And can we discover together? It takes a little doing. It's not something that's just going to be easy, quick, and fall together every
No.
time over time.
No, I've heard even in the poly relationships, the thruples and stuff. I mean, it's a relationship.
Yes.
It's a bunch of, you got
Yeah.
a bunch of people. That's
Yes.
a lot of people. And I'm for whatever, guys. Like, I truly am. But to me, it does take effort. And I love what you said, like that filter of, is this pleasure? Is this something that will bring me pleasure? Or am I trying to band-aid this?
Yes.
And like really sit with that, because the cause and effect of your decisions, you'll get back up no matter what.
Yes.
But it's a really good thing to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's almost like pleasure is the navigation. If I'm heading toward pleasure and I'm present,
Mm,
I'm involved in all of these ways, going back to the 5 Fs.
right.
I'm connected. I'm there. It's not just about performance. It's not just about pleasing someone else. It's not doing what I should be doing. If I'm involved, connected, focused, and experiencing pleasure, chances are it's going to turn
Yeah.
out pretty well. My simplistic definition for a good sexual relationship of two people, let's say, is if each person parts from the experience with a good feeling.
Mm.
Simple as that.
I love simplicity for complicated minds. I love and simplicity. There's no insinuation of simplicity as in it's not so profound.
Yeah.
Simplicity is profound. We have seen that in AA and things like that. Simplicity is beautiful because we make things so difficult.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah. And it becomes overwhelming and hard
Yes.
to hold on to. It becomes
Yeah.
confusing. Like, what can I focus on that's easy, understandable, and can lead me forward?
Yes. Totally. And so and for people out there struggling with shame around pleasure, it's just so important because we live in this 9 to 5 groundhog inducing society to really go after your bliss and your pleasure. That's part of the human experience.
Yes. Yeah,
And
and
it's missing.
because it's missing, it's missing because in living a responsible life, in today's world, we live in a multitask, run
Mm,
as fast as you can,
yeah.
got to take care of a variety of responsibilities, and it's 24/7. We're tired, we're worn out, so sometimes it leaves very little room for pleasure, and that's why I think we run to it almost compulsively at times,
Oh, that makes
where
sense.
it's like an escape from all of these demands of life and all of this
Oh,
distraction and
repression.
multitasking. Absolutely.
Oh
Okay.
my God. That
I'm
makes
saying, okay,
sense.
and I'm going to create a compartment where that's where I'm going to be for that
Yes.
pleasure, because now I got to go back into 98% of the rest of my world where that's not considered.
So that's why the preacher's daughters go nuts in college. It's the same thing. Now, well, no, it's a stereotype. That was me. I was this naughty girl when I got out of the house. So yeah, that's fascinating because I know when I got out of my relationship and had been there's a backup in the the club, like I felt an extreme amount of sexual energy
Yeah.
that from being repressed. And so it probably was some compulsion, but then it calmed down. I didn't hurt anyone. Nobody hurt me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it would fit under the guidelines of this is fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And also with a couple, very often early on, we start off with pleasure. We start
right.
off with excitement. It's easy.
Yeah.
We're into it. Then if we stick around and we build lives together, all the responsibilities now to start to slowly squeeze that out. And
Yeah.
enter responsibility, enter the kids, enter our job demands, our
Yeah.
family demands, maybe throw an illness or some medications in there that mess with my sexual functioning. Okay, so we got all this. I use the expression sometimes, Brittany, that life conspires against sex.
Exactly. That's very, very well said. I mean, just come back. Just like, because I remember hearing Tony Robbins talk about the different archetypes of this one woman who was struggling. Her marriage was falling apart. And one of the archetypes, she was naming all the different facets of who she was inside of her. And one of them was Agnes. And that was the one who was in control. And Agnes had to make sure everything was on track. She was responsible. Everything was good. And then there was Chrissy, who was her when she met her husband. Chrissy was a little slut. That's what she said. Excuse my French. I'll probably have to edit that out. But anyway, so she denied all those parts of herself and the pleasure because of responsibility and codependence on children, codependence with your children, with your families, and societal expectations of parenting. Just, oh
my God. This goes back into what I was talking about a little bit earlier. And, I've really seen how life has changed for us from the analog era of the 20th century to the digital era of the 21st century. We're multitask, we're on all the time. Life used to go along sequentially, do one thing at a time. That's how life
right.
was. And, we would mess things up as well in those days, okay? But there was less coming at us. There was less on us. There were less pressures and expectations of how we live our life in modern.
Right.
And we gotta recognize that, take into account, it ain't free. There's going to be a reaction to that, and
Yeah,
sometimes the reaction is what we're talking about. How it
exactly.
comes out sideways, and then creates relational problems.
It truly does. It's so, you guys, I'm going to list out the 5 F's and the description below on YouTube. Like and describe, describe how you feel, like and subscribe. But I'm going to list those out if that's okay with you in the show notes, so you can do your homework and look at these things as you're discovering yourself sexually, as you're getting curious with your partners. Dr. Peter, this was so fun. Like, this conversation filled me up. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'm glad to have participated.
It's so good to have you on. And I will list all Dr. Peter's information below. I know so many of you are struggling with these issues. If I have 10 in my backyard here, women and men, I'm hearing about this stuff. There's so many of you out there. Reach out if he has any openings, Dr. Peter. I don't know how booked you are, but this man's here to help. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Dr. Peter.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you. And keep it red, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for joining the Life in Red today, where we embrace passion, confidence, and positive sexuality. Keep painting your journey in bold red strokes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us so that you never miss out on living your best red life. Ready for more? Stay passionate, stay red. See you next episode.